Tune in to Heartland for the best in true country music. Relive vintage specials, one-of-a-kind concerts, and country music's earliest videos. Heartland is the heart of country, the only place where you can find country music, country stars, and country lifestyles 24/7. Heartland, the heart of country.
Now on channel 13.2.
A top secret location. It's the spies who love me, bringing together MeTV's top super spies to fight evil at a memorable moment's notice. They're daring.
That's right.
Brave.
Now what are we gonna do?
The best we can.
Suave.
Does that apply to me, Oscar?
Possibly.
And smart.
The old finger in the gun trick.
Maxwell Smart.
MeTV Fresno, channel 43.6 and Xfinity 187.
Hi, I'm John Malos. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with Me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this day. Hey, today we have a special guest in the house, an expert, so to speak, and I like going, hey, we did it again. The last time he was here, going from black and white to color. I love that aspect of it. Anyway, today we're talking about bipolar disorder. 436-MeTV option 11. If you have it, if you know someone who does, call in and weigh in. Back in a moment. Thank you. Color today here on Connect with Me on MeTV Fresno. Glad you're along. It's a Friday morning here on the showroom floor at Ventura TV. The weekend is upon us, of course, and we'll see what happens here today. 436 MeTV option 11. Very interesting program yesterday on drones. We'll do a follow-up. Are we keeping you up over there? Anyway. Anyway, on Monday, we're going to have somebody in the house talking about a brand new radio station that went on the air just recently. And then, you know what, on Tuesday, we'll have the folks from United Way, and they're kind of in transition right now with who actually runs that company. So, very interesting topic coming up on Tuesday here on Connect with Me. Hey, time to remind you that you, for the moment at least, are watching us on Comcast Channel 187, because next week sometime, thereabouts on the 25th or so, don't pin me down, we'll be changing Comcast channels to 375. If you had asked me when exactly, I have no idea. When I know, you will know, and so you'll make the appropriate changes on your dial. And I know your routine is to watch 187, but it'll change sometime next week. Anyway, 43.6, 13.1, 8.1 over-the-air broadcast. The replay comes later in the day. Be surprised how many people watch that replay at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 13.6 YouTube, 8 o'clock primetime, 4.6 Biz TV, and then the YouTube channel is 24/7, as you all know, and the Twitter account is very simple, at John Malos MeTV. And so today, bipolar disorder, you know, this is a term that's really used quite often now in our society. You know, something goes wrong and somebody will say, oh, I think that person is bipolar. They have all the signs, you know. So let's put up on the screen some warning signs of bipolar disease. Exactly what is it? Well, it's the very high and the very low. I'm talking about mood swings. During the high, or the mania, a person is liable to feel abnormally happy, energetic, irritable to a certain extent, maybe even to a point where that person is making poor decisions. Now, during depression, the person will go through a real low. I mean, to the absolute bottom of the pit, my friends. Crying, no eye contact, negative outlook on life, thoughts of suicide. You can see the signs right here. And from what I read on the internet last night, 30 to 40% of the people who reach this extreme low actually hurt themselves. We'll ask our expert about that today. We picked out some video of people who do have bipolar and what it's like to reach the bottom.
I was very afraid at the beginning. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know I felt like I was losing it. I was spending money and doing everything I could do with money and anything else, drinking, smoking. Basically, I would say in the beginning, it's really scary because you don't know what's happening to you. You know who you want to be, but you're not who you want to be at the same time. I got to the point where I knew I couldn't handle it. And I was crying all the time and just a mess. I took my kids to a center for children. I walked them in there and I said, well, I can't handle this. I can't handle the kids anymore. So I have to give them up for a while until I go get myself together. When I was diagnosed with clinical depression, which was not the right diagnosis, they gave me Valium. And in the process of taking the Valium, it really didn't do much. I kind of went up and down, up and down. Then I started getting dependent on it just because it was there for me to take. But it never really, it didn't do anything for me. Valium covered the pain, kept me doped up, and that was it.
What an incredibly sad world that some of these people live in. Live in our studio right now is Peter Nazaretian. He is a family therapist. He has been for many years, over a quarter of a century here in the city of Fresno. If you have bipolar disorder, you're welcome to call in this morning, 436-MeTV option 11. We'll be here for the duration of the full hour. You know, folks, you don't have to give up your name or your phone number or anything when you call in. You can be anonymous. Call in if you have a problem or a friend who has a problem. That's why Peter is here to help. He'll give out his phone number too. If you want a personal session here in Fresno, more than welcome to do that as well. Back with our program in just a moment.
We need help to find this missing child. Erica Parsons was 13 when she disappeared. She was last seen in Salisbury, North Carolina in November of 2011. This is what we believe she looks like today at age 16. If you have any information, please call the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at 1-800-THE-LOST. That's 1-800-843-5678.
Retro TV, your home for classic television. The greatest shows in history are here for you to enjoy. Join Cosby and Culp as secret agent men in I Spy. Ride along the Ponderosa with the Cartwrights in Bonanza. Hit the beat with Joe Friday in Dragnet. And that's not all. Retro TV offers endless fun and excitement for the whole family to enjoy. Retro TV, the best in classic television.
You can find Retro TV on over-the-air channel 13.4.
Back here on the program and talking about bipolar disorder, and you hear it all the time, at least I do. You know, someone gets upset or they look at someone and they say, you know what, I think that person appears to be bipolar to me, or they have a relative who they think is bipolar, or maybe a friend they think is bipolar. Peter Nazaretian is here. He's a regular on the program, and you know, I have these extreme highs once in a while. Does that mean I'm bipolar? I mean,
no, John. Nice to see you, by the way.
Good to see you too. You look great.
Thank you. Everybody has highs. You go to Disneyland, or you get a check in the mail you weren't expecting, or you meet somebody, and you know, kind of life is a little bit exciting right there. So yeah, you get these normal highs and lows too. You're getting audited. Your cat got run over. I mean, there's things that happen. So we get those are normal highs and lows fluctuations. Bipolar is way beyond that.
So, like today, I came in. I was kind of feeling like on cloud nine. I don't know why. I was a little hyper and talking about politics and this and that. And sometimes I get way up there. But how do you distinguish between that and bipolar? I mean, someone could come by and say, gee, he's really kind of, up there today. Mm-hmm. Do we think he's bipolar? How do you distinguish between the two?
Well, the trick is, in that particular case, you don't want to micromanage. It's not a matter of, are you in a good mood and for 5 minutes, or you might be bipolar. How's that trend? How do you do over the course of a day, of a week, of a month?
Right.
Because the normal fluctuations, high and low, are perfectly normal. But if you're always elevated, if you're not sleeping, if you're talking really fast, and this goes on for maybe days at a time, which is not the case with what you're talking about, then you kind of go, something's not quite right. But a good morning or a punk morning.
Well, I think part of it was today with me, I came in, it's Friday.
I'm pretty excited about that too.
I'm like, woo, baby, all right.
Sure. Those are good. Those are, for most people, we have what we call a horizon.
Yeah.
And I'll do a little diagram later for the viewers, and show you how that fluctuates, what normal is, and what bipolar, and the various types of bipolar, because that's interesting too.
And I've got my kids this weekend. I'm excited about that and what we're going to do.
Sure.
And Madison Bumgarner is pitching tonight for the Giants. I'm excited about that. So I'm excited about a lot of things. It's not payday today, but that's okay.
It's all right.
There are some things. Anyway, hey, I want to go over that list, Peter. 436 MeTV option 11 that we had in the monologue. Some of the signs and the clip, very depressing. That woman was very eloquent the way she explained her personal situation and what bipolar is. Let's put up some of the signs again so people at home can see what we're talking about. The full screens, there they are. Go over these individually if you could.
Sure. Suicidal thoughts, pretty obvious. Of course, bipolar indicates that you're both high and low. That would be indicative of a low spot. Although, curiously, John, when people with bipolar commit suicide, oftentimes it's in a manic phase, so not always down. Racing thoughts goes along with that. Can't shut your mind off, lay there, can't fall asleep, thinking of a million things. That's disturbing. Loss of interest in social activities. Invited to parties, don't go. Want to be around people.
Hang on, caller.
Don't want to be there. Inflated ego, very full of themselves, excited all the time. I'm top of the world. I can do anything. I'm amazing.
So inflated ego could think that they feel and act like Donald Trump in a way.
Yeah, there's a whole other thing going on with him. But yes, right. to be very full of themselves, and maybe without a proportionate talent. I feel like I can solve the world's mathematics problem. But I have only got a 6th grade education. How does that fit? Guilty about not being able to control the condition. That's a huge one. I feel, people, what's wrong with you? Why are you down, or why are you up?
Right.
And so we feel like we have to be appropriate so that other people will like us.
We'll pick it up. Just let's take this call, and then we'll pick up the list here. Caller, go ahead. Thanks for being patient.
Oh, that's good morning. My question to your guest is, what ethnic group is more likely to suffer from bipolar?
That's a very interesting question. Thank you. Actually, bipolar disorder is kind of equanimous. It can hit any race, any color, any culture. Obviously, people with less access to mental health, maybe, and it's a genetic thing. Bipolar is largely genetic. So if there's a history in the family, it doesn't really matter where it comes from. It does, in terms of who you are, it can strike virtually anybody.
So it's not like prostate cancer, or I don't even know if prostate cancer is a good analogy, but it's not like certain diseases that they target certain ethnic groups. This is really, it doesn't discriminate?
No, not as far as we can tell. Like sickle cell anemia, for example.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, very strong with the African American population because of certain propensities. But no, bipolar is pretty much across the board.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter what age group either?
No. Well, in terms of onset, you're likely that it's going to come on in the late teens, early 20s, most of the time.
Really?
It's rare that it would kick in middle age, for example. We do see it in children occasionally, but normally it's a late adolescent, early 20s onset.
So if you see someone with bipolar who's like 50 or 60, more than likely they've had it all their life?
Yeah. There's, of course, a lot of people just deal with it. And if it's too abject, if it's too high or too low, it gets in problems. But some people struggle, trying to keep it together, and they're doing that for years and years. It wears them out.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, 436 MeTV option 11. We're here. Peter Nazaretian is our expert today, family therapist, knows all about bipolar disorder. He's been around for a long time, my friends, practicing. He knows what he's talking about. 436 MeTV option 11. Back in a moment.
Almost time.
Now we'll find out once and for all about Clark Kent and Superman.
Look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's a TV show.
Yes, but who is he? What's his name?
He's Superman.
Golly, Clark, won't that be wonderful seeing Superman
Fighting a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and television the MeTV way.
No one can do the things that Superman does.
The adventures of Superman.
Now on MeTV Fresno, Xfinity 187.
Everything was going well right up until the first day of minicamp. I totally lost all confidence, fell into a depression, and didn't know what was happening to me. It was very, very frightening. I had no confidence. I couldn't think. I couldn't punt very well. I mean, it was a struggle every day to get out of bed, number one, number two, to eat, number three, to work out, number four, to go out and play. I was struggling through a couple different medications they were trying me on. I think they put me on one medication, Effexor, and it made me spin into a mania, and I think that's how they diagnosed me with bipolar. The day of our first preseason game, I had a panic attack. Couldn't catch the ball. I didn't know how I was going to perform. And at that time, I mean, I really didn't know what was happening to me. I couldn't feel my hands. I had shortness of breath. I couldn't think. But it turned out my first punt went 65 yards, and it was just a matter of letting go and allowing it to manifest. But I still didn't really know what my condition was all about. I was very confused, and that whole season was really tough. I still continued to self-medicate with cannabis and alcohol, just trying to make the pain go away. And there was suicidal ideation. In fact, I thought about it every day. I wanted my brain to stop working as it was, and I just wanted to, be normal again.
Obviously a professional football player for a couple of years, and athletes go through all of this too. Before I have Peter react to that incredibly emotional videotape, it took me by surprise too. I do want to take this call. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, let me ask Peter. About a week ago, my son, he's 28, and he lives here at the house, and it was late in the night, and I smelled an odor coming out of his room. I knew what it was, and so I texted him on his phone. I told him, hey, be safe and let me know what's going on. The next day, the following day, he came out of his room and he told me, Dad, I'm sorry, I was smoking weed, and he started to cry. Oh my God. And I said, well, why are you crying? I said, I got pressure here at work, and I don't know what to do. I said, look, I went through all this with your mom, and if you have something bottled up, talk about it. We'll get them help. And he had never done this before, He's always been a happy-go-lucky kid. I've always told him I loved him, this and that. But what my concern is this. When they start doing weed, of course, he's 28 years old, he works and he takes care of me and the way he took care of his mom. But, like he might be ups and downs, I don't know. But when he got into that weed thing, and then I saw your show, and I go, oh, man, I hope it's not this. So what kind of help how can I help him, or can I get help? Is that a sign? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm not sure that little snippet you just discussed would fall under the category of bipolar. He does have some stress, does have some anxiety, trying to relieve that by smoking some weed. Thank you. Very common, not unusual. And he may have just had a bad day. He may have, not eaten something right. He could have maybe taken a pill to sort of help out as well. I need a little more information about that. But if you're seeing that as sort of an isolated basis, I'm not sure you're looking at bipolar there. That's a little coping, a little depression perhaps, a little anxiety. I'm not sure that's bipolar.
Well, what about the videotape that we saw just before the phone call? Yeah. Here is a guy that is on top of the world, playing professional football for 2 or 3 years, his thinking constantly about suicide by his own admission, trying to self-medicate. What kind of a picture is he drawing? Is he bipolar?
It would appear so. That being in pain, and for those of us who don't struggle with that, It's hard to imagine, very often, for example, when people are depressed or on the depressive side of bipolar, and they're kind of blue and they're kind of down, and maybe they've been that way for several hours, maybe several days, and the people around them will tend to say things like, well, cheer up, snap out of it, because, and this is interesting, of course they want that person to feel better, but oftentimes when we say that, like maybe you've been standing someplace and somebody comes up to you and says, smile.
Right.
And you kind of, you get jolted for a second, and half of you wants to suddenly put that little smile on your face so they're happy, and half of you wants to, smack them because, wait a minute. That's just a little bit of a funk. That's not a bad thing. But when somebody is in abject pain, they just can't feel good. They don't feel comfortable. They don't feel safe. They don't feel connected to people, and it goes on and on and on. It's not just a momentary thing. Then we're talking about something that's affecting your life.
Okay, an email question, self-medicating, and you heard the professional football player in that video talking about self-medication with marijuana, perhaps with other things. Valium, he mentioned Valium too, right? Alcohol. Okay, here's the email question. When people self-medicate for various disorders, what does that mean?
They're trying to get a balance in their life. I'm feeling really down, really miserable, and I hate the way I feel. So let me drink, let me smoke, let me drop a pill maybe, let me do something that will elevate my spirits. Same way with people who are in the manic side of bipolar. Very frequently, for example, they'll self-medicate with alcohol to try to sleep. 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I got to get up for work tomorrow, and so if I take a tumbler and a half of Wild Turkey, maybe I can find a drop.
Is that how they overdose sometimes?
Sometimes.
Whitney Houston come to mind?
Possibly. Of course, that was a little more serious. That was cocaine. With alcohol, interesting concept here. Mania eats alcohol.
Hang on, caller.
Mania eats alcohol.
What does that mean?
Quick example. I had a client in my practice some years ago, a little girl, she's about 90 pounds, slip of a thing. She was a senior in high school, and she partied with the high school football team, big guys. And she would drink beer with them. And they would get a keg and start drinking. And she would drink as much as anybody in the room. And then one by one, they would pass out and fall down. And at the end of the night, everybody was knocked out on the floor. And she was still up. She had drank as much as anybody in that room, walked around the room, finished all their beers, and then drove home. And she was fine. Her blood alcohol level would be through the roof, but the way she was personally, was she safe to drive? In a weird way, of course, technically no, but in reality, she was fine. Mania eats alcohol.
That's the first time I've heard that.
We'll talk more about that, yeah.
All right, go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, I just want to say a couple things. One is you've had some really great shows in the past week. I wanted to compliment you on the subject matter itself. Is this more of a chemical imbalance or a psychological or a combination of both? And is it likely that that individual will lash out on others or lash out on themselves?
So caller, let me ask you a question. Are you asking Peter to kind of summarize what bipolar disorder is in a way, or is that your question?
In a way, well, is it just a chemical? I mean, can it always be treated chemically, or can it only be treated, let's say, with psychological, sitting down with a doctor, talking to him, that type of thing? Or a combination of both?
Good question. Thank you very much. Yes, it is a chemical imbalance. It is, for the most part, genetic. It comes through the family. There are ways to simulate that. If you're raised, for example, in a very extremely chaotic household, or somebody who is bipolar, lots of highs and lows, lots of extremes, you can actually pick up that, almost get a bipolar type feeling for it, although actual bipolar disorder is basically chemical. It is treated with chemistry, medications, various types. And this is interesting too. Sometimes, depending on the degree and severity of the bipolar and the type, it may be one medication, a mood stabilizer, or it may be 2 medications where you have an antidepressant to keep them out of the basement and an antipsychotic perhaps to keep them out of the attic, if you will. And so it depends on what the medication is, depends on how that person responds to it.
So trying to stay on an even keel, basically. Does Valium help?
Valium is an old line medication. It can help in the sense if it calms somebody down, but does it actually address the issue of the chemical imbalance for bipolar? No.
It doesn't. What's it for? What's it used for?
Well, when in a manic phase, if you have a Valium on board, it's like drinking or smoking weed, it kind of calms down the upper end of it.
It'll get you out of the basement a little.
Well, it'll pull you out of the attic. Yeah, if you're too high, you wouldn't give Valium to somebody depressed. You'd give Valium to somebody, you'd give to somebody, if they're anxious depressed, perhaps.
You need to pull them down a little bit.
Right.
Okay, all right. Boy, I'm learning a lot here today. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Caller, go ahead. Caller, you're on the air. You'll have to turn your TV set down. Give it one more. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm calling about the bipolar program.
Yeah, can you turn your television set down, please?
My TV's off.
Okay, can you speak up? Because we can hardly hear you.
Okay, about the bipolar program.
Go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to say that children have bipolar, and the bipolar is recognized from emotional ups and downs. So my thing is that how do you recognize the bipolar disorder in a child?
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Does bipolar exist in children? Yes. Is it easily diagnosed? Obviously not, because what is an enthusiastic, excited child, or they just throw themselves on the floor and they're just abjectly, sad and uncomfortable?
Is it easy to misdiagnose?
Yeah, for that very reason. It's the same with ADHD. Is the kid hyperactive? Is he just being a kid? It's hard to know. But yeah, it does affect children, although the onset is usually late adolescent, early 20s.
Yeah.
But it can affect children if diagnosed properly. Of course, there's do you give medication to a child that young when they're still developing? That's a controversy. But if it's pretty severe, it can show up in childhood, yes.
Yeah. Got to go to a break. Peter Nazaretian is here talking about bipolar disorder. Don't try to self-medicate, my friends. Seek help and get medication. And I mean seek professional help if you have or feel that you have any kind of depression or that disease. Back in just a moment with your phone calls.
Take a look at this. Let's play. This is too hip for you. I'll slow down. Let's play.
Watch all your favorite classic game shows on Buzzer TV, KBBC Digital Channel 13.7.
Is taking care of laundry taking too much of your time? Have you become a missing mom? With a new fast, efficient washer and dryer from Ventura TV Video Appliance, you'll spend more of your day the way you want. Save now on Frigidaire's Advanced Affinity Laundry Pair. Let Frigidaire save you energy, water, and time. Don't spend your life on laundry. Upgrade today at Ventura TV Video Appliance and save.
I didn't really understand bipolar to its full extent until probably 2007. When I was first diagnosed, I didn't believe it. I had my parents were supportive in my disbelief of bipolar. I didn't take meds. I didn't seek counseling. I coped with it on my own. I used substances to help medicate myself, but I didn't understand the bipolar until it got really, really bad. I had a manic state before my depressed state. For my first episode, it was a lot of drug use. I cheated on my boyfriend at the time. I destroyed friendships, and then I was depressed afterwards when I realized what all I had done. I had a scooter. I was on a motor scooter and I had a motor scooter accident, and I got really depressed after that. Depressed to where I was having suicidal thoughts. And the doctor I was seeing, he didn't know how to treat me correctly. So he recommended that I go to stay in a hospital for a while and see if they could get meds regulated and see exactly what was going on. That's when I first found out that I had bipolar. But like I said before, we did not believe it. We didn't want to believe it. It seemed like a joke, like I was misdiagnosed. No, that couldn't possibly be it. And after that hospital stay, I got sober, and my parents took me to a family practitioner, and gradually he weaned me off of all the psych meds that I was on. And I was fine for a while, probably a year or so, and then I started having episodes again.
You know, you talk about bipolar disease, and I think of the first thing, okay, very extreme highs and extreme lows. What are you most afraid of, the lows or the highs?
Highs.
Because?
More likely to act out in a manic state than in a depressive state. Now, there may not be much of a difference there. If they're really, really low, are they going to get suicidal? Well, sure, there's the danger there. But when they're really, really high, that's when they take incredible risks. Much more danger of actually doing it when they're high.
Like when she said she got on her motor scooter and probably driving all crazy and everything, got into a wreck.
Well, the typical, some of the bipolar mania things, spending atrocious amounts of money, drugs and alcohol. I mentioned about alcohol, drinking atrocious amounts of alcohol and yet not acting drunk at all. Very often, people who are bipolar have that. I say, when you go to a party with your friends and you're, doing shots or something, I say, do you find that you can drink more shots than your friends? Yeah. You find that everybody else is, begging off and starting to pass out, and you're saying, come on, let's do it again. Yeah. Did I try to, why there was? Well, I just thought I had a good tolerance. I just thought it was good. No, that's what that's like. It takes enormous amounts of alcohol.
So the chemical is absorbing the alcohol in your brain? How does that work?
Not literally. With bipolar, you've got an overactive neurosynaptic process. Too many things fire at the same time. It just like all the cars on the LA freeway trying to get off at the same exit at the same time.
And it's happening fast.
And so the alcohol doesn't have enough to bring that down unless you have massive amounts. Well, of course, then if you're having massive amounts of alcohol, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So it's very
Check your liver if you're doing that.
Yeah.
My gosh sakes. Anyway, I do have an email question. We'll do that. Plus, we'll put up the disclaimer. Plus, we'll go back to our full screens. We got a lot to do here. Can your guest comment on the renewed interest in the electroshock therapy?
Very good question. Thank you.
Can that help bipolar?
Yes. ECTs, electric shock therapy. Oftentimes, if people are non-responsive to medications normally, frequently that's antidepressants, they'll do shock therapy, which had it was a big thing in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. And those days it was very raw. It was almost like just hooking a battery and sticking a battery up to you. It was very, very raw and rough. You bite on a piece of leather and have a jolt. Now, of course, much more calm. They do it, they're just templates on the head. It's very calm, very gentle. There's no arching of the back. There's no tensing. They're realigning, much like you might reboot a computer.
Okay.
They get it in there, and they kind of start all over again, and then it starts, it's okay. And people have various degrees of response to that. Some do very, very well, some it doesn't work. So, but yes, there is a resurgence in it, and it's much safer and more effective than it ever used to be.
Right. Let's put that disclaimer up. Ask an expert. Every once in a while, we try to do it, as often as we can. Ask an expert on any topic. Yesterday, I had a couple experts in on drones. Oh, man, that was a lot of fun, having drones fly all over the studio here. Anyway, we asked the expert to come in of their own free volition. We don't pay them, they don't pay us, and it's good publicity for them too in their business because they are an expert in the field. In this case, Peter is an expert in bipolar and other mental disorders, no doubt about it. He's also a family therapist, so if you have a question, you can go see him where, Peter, and what's the number they should call?
Fig Garden Counseling Center. It's on Shaw Avenue, and you can call me at 252-9700.
Okay, again, real slow.
252-9700.
Okay, let's go back to our full screens and the big signs of bipolar disorder. I kind of know where we left off. Bottom left-hand corner, guilt. What does that say? Guilt
about not being able to control the condition. If they're out of control, either way too depressed and people are trying to pick them up and they're not being very friendly, or too high and people want to calm down. Gee, you're kind of big for the room. sometimes afterwards they feel very guilty that they can't control that. Overspending, very common phenomenon. I've had a number of clients who embezzled money, not because they needed it, because it's just a thrill to do it, or
but
shoplift.
Isn't it normal to, I mean, even I've done it. I put things on my credit card that I shouldn't have done, and then I regret it when the bill comes.
Yeah, and then you either take it back or you don't do it again. Everybody's done that. When you're doing it...
That doesn't mean I'm bipolar?
When you look in your closet and you've got 4 blouses in different colors, the same blouse in 4 different colors, and the tags are on 3 of them, and you haven't worn any of them in the past 6 months, then you might be looking at having a problem.
That's Lauren. She just admitted that. Is she bipolar?
Wait a minute.
Holy
Could
cow.
be an issue right here in the studio, folks.
Unbelievable. Okay, where's the electroshock treatment?
Low energy, that's of course goes with the depression side. Impulsiveness, that again is on the mania side. I might want to go ziplining. I might want to jump off a cliff into the water because that sounds like a good idea. I might want to spend all my money and get a boat. I don't even, I don't have a river to go in, but I want a boat suddenly. Impulsiveness. Drinking, drugging also falls in that category. Significant weight change, high or low. If someone's in a manic phase, they may think they don't need to eat. Or they depressive phase, they may eat to soothe themselves, so that could affect that. And of course, sleep disturbance. Classically, with people who are bipolar mania, they have a hard time sleeping, hence the self-medicating to drink, half a quart of wild turkey at 3 o'clock in the morning, because I just got to get a couple hours sleep before I go to work.
Yeah. Kind of losing my train of thought here because it's a lot to absorb. One question, though, if someone gets real high, I mean, they're up there with the clouds, does that mean the lows are going to be even lower?
Well, there is a correlation between the two. If you get incredible highs, chances are you're going to get incredible lows. If it's a more gentle high, in fact, this might be a good time to do a little diagram for you.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
How does bipolar work? So I'm going to put this on a piece of paper. Maybe we can. I don't know if can we see that? Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can say, maybe take the graphic down just temporarily.
Okay.
And then put that closer to the microphone, closer to the mic.
Go. All right. If this is the horizon line, this is where most people operate. They get a little higher, a little low, depending on that, but this is where they are most of the time. Somebody who's gently bipolar might go like that. They're a little high, a little low, but it's reasonable. Somebody with severe bipolar is going to be going more like this, your highs and lows. There's also different kinds of bipolar. I'll just do the 2 basic ones. Of course, you have classic bipolar, which is up and down, and you have bipolar 2, which is mostly you exist significantly under the horizon. You're always
below the equator.
Below the equator, with occasional spikes. Occasional spikes, and people don't know it. And oftentimes those spikes of mania come out as anger, and anger just looks like anger. It doesn't look like a bipolar. It looks like anger. So we say, what is wrong with you? But suddenly they're 0 to 60 in a second and a half, and then 10 minutes later they're fine. And you walk in the room and you say, well, you're fine. Yeah, well, you were screaming 5 minutes ago. Oh yeah, I'm over that. That might be a sign of bipolar 2. Again, psychiatric evaluation. You can't do this at home, folks. We do have highs and lows normally. So got to be able to understand what that is. But that's a little bit of a shape of how bipolar works.
All right. I told you during the break, because we have a lot more to get to, but I want to ask you a question just about me, because I told you that my life has been dominated and totally and absolutely controlled by my career till I had kids. Then they still control me.
Okay.
And if I always didn't get the job that I wanted, I was always looking to better myself, getting that better job, getting that better broadcasting job, getting that better on-air job. And if I didn't get it, I was like below the equator. Is that normal?
Yeah.
That's not bipolar.
No, you had a high motivation to do something you love to do. Call it a passion. Most of us never find a passion in life, so you were very lucky. Of course, when you didn't get what you wanted, it hit you sideways. Now, did you stay?
And I pouted.
Yeah. And did you stay in that funk for weeks at a time? Probably not.
No.
A night or two, maybe. And
no,
after that,
it's like after maybe 2 or 3 days, I would say, okay, I'm going to show them.
Yep, and then right back to normal again. So that's you just having that little dip under for a day or two, and then you're fine.
But that's not bipolar, what I had. Okay. No. All right, just trying to clarify here.
Good motivation, it sounds like.
All right, so motivation and passion is good as long as what?
Well, you don't want it to, you say, dominate your life. Well, in our society... It
has dominated me, though.
Yeah, well, in our society...
It dominates my personality.
With all due respect, women are what they look like and men are what they do. So, you know, you took what you did very seriously, and, you know, that was everything for you.
Yeah.
For some people, it's do your rate and hit the gate. They're not that interested. It's just a matter of getting the paycheck. You actually loved what you did, so the dollars were great. As a matter of fact, there were times when you probably at the end of the month, they give you a paycheck, and you think, oh, that's right, I get paid to do this, too. Because you were so thrilled just to be able to do it. And they give me money. Oh, my God. You know, so if you're lucky enough to do something that you love to do, the payment is frosting. For some people, it's the goal.
Yeah.
You were lucky.
Yeah, there are very few people that have that feeling. I know my father worked 2 jobs all his life, 2 jobs he really didn't like.
Yeah.
But he did it.
Got to feed your family.
That's right.
In those days, yeah.
Back here with Peter Nazaretian, a family therapist, talking about bipolar disorder. What controls you? What dominates your personality? And what makes you tick? 436-ME-TV, option 11. Back in a moment.
The Ballad of Andy and Barney. Andy and Barney were lawmen, bravest you ever did see. Warned every crook in the record book to stay out of Mayberry. They were the law.
Yes, they were the law, and they didn't know fear.
The Andy Griffith Show.
I guess to sum it up, you could say there's 3 reasons why there's so little crime in Mayberry. There's Andy, and there's me, and baby makes 3.
Now on MeTV Fresno.
Euronews, most watched news channel in Europe.
I lost my husband John to suicide 7.5 years ago. He was a very normal, average, above average individual. Success in business. He was very well educated, had a family, very happy, and anyone to look at him would think that he had it all. But he also had a mental disorder, and that was not apparent because he was able to mask his illness with the positive things in his life. People who suffer with depression really are able to do that. And it's when these things that they put in front of themselves as masks are taken away that the demons of depression, if you will, come out. And for John, he had lost his job. And he had lost his job at a very critical time. It was a very devastating situation and led to about a 3-year spiral. His job was his persona and career. And having taken that away, he was much more susceptible to giving in to the depression. Prior to the major onset of these symptoms of his illness, he was just an average social drinker, you know, and no problems per se. And however, once he was really suffering with depression, he was self-medicating with alcohol. And and also a combination of whatever medications he was on. It's just bad. He would have episodes of, which I now understand as mania and manic and depression, where he would be extremely agitated. So, not to speak from a clinical standpoint, but the mania isn't always euphoria. It's a very agitated state. So he'd become very, very agitated, obsessive about things, and then become very withdrawn, which would be, of course, the more depressed state.
All right, another tape segment there, and talking about bipolar disorder, Peter, that gentleman in that video there that she was talking about was her husband, and, you know, kind of like me, his life was controlled by his career, it seemed like, and went into a funk for, what, 2 or 3 years, unemployed. So how do you compare that situation to, say, mine? My life has been controlled by my career.
Well, yours was by choice. he enjoyed what he did, but he also had bipolar disorder. So you have to factor in how effective is he, how good is he doing in his job.
Right.
Plus, is he hiding the bipolar? Is he able to use, for example, I had a woman in my practice some years ago, and I thought she was bipolar, and I said, I'm going to send you to a psychiatrist, and I did. He was a friend of mine. And he came back and he said, yeah, you're right, she's bipolar. He says, but I'm not going to medicate her. She says, because she has that kind of bipolar that she's mostly on the upside and it doesn't get out of control. She just has great energy. She doesn't need a lot of sleep. She's always on up, very little depression, and it doesn't get out of control.
She's positive.
Yeah, he says, why would I medicate that? I want that. Because, every so often you get that sweet spot where somebody runs a little hot. And it's good, more energy, more time. For most people, it isn't that wonderful. However, their highs and lows can get in the way, and we try to compensate by self-medicating.
Yeah, but maybe she doesn't have bipolar, that woman that you're talking about, because she doesn't get down and dirty in the basement.
She went to the psychiatrist. He diagnosed it.
Really?
Yeah.
So you don't have to get down and dirty in here to have bipolar.
Like anything, there's not just one kind of bipolar. It's 0 to 100. Are you here where it's more manageable? Is it here where it can get out of control once in a while? Is it here? Or is it out here? Let me give you an example of extreme real quick. A woman in my practice years ago, it's Christmas Eve.
Okay.
And doesn't have a Christmas tree. So 3 o'clock in the morning, she decides she's got a 90-foot pine tree in her backyard. So she goes out to the garage, gets a chainsaw. Yeah, slings it around her, starts climbing up this 90-foot pine tree, gets to the top, starts the chainsaw, 3 o'clock in the morning, lights are starting to go on in the neighborhood, and she cuts off the top 6 feet of the pine tree, which crashes to the ground. She puts the chainsaw around it, climbs back down, drags it in the house, starts to set it up. Of course, by then the police show up, because everybody's going crazy, what's going on? And she says, what, I'm just getting a Christmas tree. To her, it seemed perfectly logical. Now, you tell me, is that logical? Is that what everybody does?
Well, if it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it'd be different.
Okay.
If she wants to climb a pine tree, let her. Hey, 3 o'clock in the morning, I'd say, hey, man, I got to get my sleep.
Risky, outrageous, all the signs are there.
I know. I'm just kidding you. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air. I wish I had video of that. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you very much for all the info. I have a friend that it has bipolar, and I care about it very much, and I just got a greater understanding. I wanted to thank you so much.
I appreciate it, and thank you for being supportive of your friend. It's not easy when somebody has bipolar to have that understanding, because it does require certain patience and tolerance from the people around us to put up with those highs and lows. It's not always easy, particularly if you're married to someone. It's one thing to be a friend, but if you're with that person all the time, it can be exhausting. And so thank you for your support. Good job.
Yeah, it really is. And I do want to say there was a young woman who called in earlier. She actually hung up. She was on hold during that tape segment. Please call back if you can, 436-ME-TV option 11. Sometimes you got to be patient depending on when you call in. We were in a taped segment at that portion. So let's get to the myths and the facts about bipolar. Myth number 1, Peter. Let's put that up on the screen. People with bipolar disorder can't get better or lead a normal life. And the fact of the matter is, boom, there it is right there on your screen.
Yeah. People with medication, with therapy, and by the way, that combination is the most effective. Medication alone is helpful, therapy alone is helpful, but neither is as effective as both. So with the combination of medication and therapy, you can, in most cases, not in the severe cases, but in most cases, live a normal life.
All right, so there it is up on your screen there. Hey, how about myth number 2? There it is. People with bipolar disorder swing back and forth between mania and depression. And the fact of the matter is,
not always. As we mentioned with bipolar 2, it's mostly pervasively depressed with occasional spikes of mania that take the form of anger oftentimes. So that doesn't even look like bipolar. So it's not, the typical highs and lows, yes, that is the normal, what we call the typical bipolar, but it is not necessarily the case for everybody.
All right, myth number 3, and it's a simple one. Bipolar disorder only affects mood swings. True or false? Here's the answer. Boom, right there. Leave that up for a little bit so that people can read that. That's a lot of information.
Yeah. Of course, it affects the way you interact with other people. It affects your self-esteem, your self-image. You're talking about doing your job. There's all kinds. It's the tentacles go in every part of our life.
But see, here's the surprising part about this fact here. It's linked to diabetes, heart disease, migraines, and high blood pressure. Really?
Yeah, linked. Keyword is linked. When somebody struggles with one disorder, one disease, oftentimes we see it leading to others because the body is a systemic process. You can't affect just one area when nothing else is affected. But generally speaking, if you have an issue in one place, it's going to affect others.
Yeah, okay. Myth number 4 before we go to break. Aside from taking medication, there is nothing you can do to control bipolar disorder. Fact of the matter is, boom.
Sure. Therapy can be very, very helpful. Support from the people around you can be very, very helpful. Understanding what bipolar is and embracing the concept of getting better at it. As it's not just medication, although that's certainly primary.
Can certain, leave that up there just for a second here so people can kind of read that and digest that information. Can people who have bipolar, everything is going fine, they're going to therapy, they're taking their medication, and then some life event happens that can trigger it one way or the other?
Stress exacerbates mania. So even when you're taking your medications, even when you're theoretically getting good support and eating right and everything else, let's say you suddenly get a note that you're getting audited or your mom just passed away or something like this, that can pop you into a manic phase or a depressive phase. Stress exacerbates mania particularly, but can also affect depression.
Wow. Got to go to break again. We'll come back with a couple of email questions and move on here. 436 MeTV option 11. Peter Nazaretian is our guest today. Back in a moment.
Frigidaire. It means the first refrigerator. It means a history of innovations that help make your home life better. And now we introduce the new Frigidaire French door refrigerator with over 100 ways to organize for maximum flexibility. Built with adjustable flip-up and slide-under shelving and stackable crisper drawers. It's the refrigerator that flexes to fit it all, no matter what your day will bring. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
You can find movies on over-the-air channel 13.3. Movies. Our name says it all.
Back here on the program, and do we have another tape segment that we're going to play here? No. Oh, we're out of tape segments, but bipolar disorder is the topic today. So if you're a shopaholic and you're addicted to shopping and you can't do anything else and it's just eating you alive if you can't get out and shop, bipolar?
Not necessarily, but an interesting marker. You certainly want us to look at
That's
some
a marker?
Yeah, you want to look at some shopping.
Wow.
Excessive shopping is one of the key issues. Now, having said that, are there plenty of people that just love to go shop? Yes. Does that mean they're all bipolar? No, no. So you'd have to certainly look, to see if there are other signs. In the DSM, the diagnostic manual that gives you the criteria, there are certain you have to have at least, I think, 5 out of 7 or 5 out of 8 markers. So that's one clearly, but if that's the only one and there's no others, it's not bipolar. It's just, I like shopping.
How about exercising? Does that help?
Exercise certainly helps depression. And for somebody who's manic, they may exercise just because they can't sit still. So it's not about helping it, but that the exercise would help you in a depressive phase. Yeah.
Got some more full screens here. Symptoms of mania or manic episode include mood changes, my friends. That's right, an overly long period of feeling high. What do you mean overly long? Let's leave that up there for a little while until we discuss these.
Well, you get good news and you have fun. You go out with your friends at night and you have a couple of drinks and you celebrate. That would be, I have an evening, look, I got a new job. If you've been running hot for 4 or 5 days, haven't slept much, more than a couple of hours, that would be overly long to be that high.
Well, you could be on cocaine, too. That could do it.
That's why you have to rule out,
Yeah, so that's why you have to go in and get diagnosed by a professional.
Yeah.
All right, don't try to do this at home because you're not a professional. Or an overly happy or outgoing mood, extreme irritability, so someone can be irritable, too, as well as be happy?
This is an interesting one, John, because an awful lot of people who have bipolar don't realize it because they're looking for those ups. They're looking for that, I want to spend money, I want to go drink or gamble, I want to be in an expansive mood. The reality is I have quite a few clients over the years whose mania takes the form of anger and irritability. and all that looks like the people around them is anger and irritability. So they get, I had a gal that says, I get cheated. I didn't get the good kind of mania. I got this crap mania. Where when I'm manic, I'm irritable as hell, and that's not. I'm either depressed or irritable. Not a good combo.
What an interesting combination. Happy and irritable at the same time. Wow. Okay, behavioral changes. Okay, look, I fall into that. Sometimes I talk very fast. Sometimes I jump from one idea to another. Sometimes my thoughts are racing faster than the Indy 500. Does that mean I have bipolar, for God's sake?
Well, the key word in that for you is sometimes. Everybody has, occasionally, that's normal. We're not androids. We do have emotions. We do have highs and lows. It's when it stays there pervasively or gets too high or too low on a regular basis, that's when it becomes a problem.
Okay, being unusually distracted.
Yeah. Now, where does bipolar mania conflict with, let's say, ADHD? Well, they're very similar because they have very similar backgrounds. In both cases, it's excessive neuron activity. So those two things can look like each other. Again, this is why we have so many criteria to say it's not ADHD, it's bipolar.
Yeah, interesting. Being increasing your activities, such as taking on multiple new projects, being overly restless. Do those two kind of go hand in hand there?
They could. And again, what is ambition? Somebody just wants to get ahead. You were talking about your career earlier, taking on extra jobs, staying late at the office. Is that someone who's dedicated and passionate about what they're doing, or is that somebody who might be bipolar? Again, got to have the other criteria in place.
Yeah, sleeping, not being tired, having an unrealistic belief in your abilities, like, hey, man walked on the moon, I think I can do that too.
Yeah, literally. Let's build a rocket in the backyard. We'll start tonight. Well, then you'd probably be looking at somebody who's a bipolar issue. Yeah.
Behaving impulsively, like shopping, and engaging in pleasurable high-risk behaviors, like what? Taking drugs or whatever.
Taking drugs, gambling, drinking, multiple sex partners in one night.
Yeah. Okay. Let's not get into that, Peter.
Sensitive area for John, apparently.
No. I don't want to get any FCC violations here.
Okay.
Symptoms of depression or a depressive episode. Mood changes. Okay, an overly long period of feeling sad or hopeless.
That's the other side of the coin. If you're down, we all have a blue day. We all get in a funk once in a while. But what if you stay there for 4 or 5 days or a week, can't seem to get out of bed, can't seem to eat or shower? We got a problem.
All right, loss of interest in activities, including sex.
Yeah.
You lose interest in sex.
Yeah.
Wow.
In fact, that may be one of the first to go.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Because is that a big sign?
Because it's systemic. Sure, if you're depressed, you don't have much pleasure. The idea of engaging in sex, which usually takes some energy, some focus, some excitement. Nope, that's just too much.
All right, behavioral changes, feeling overtired, slowing down. That could be old age, though, too.
Yeah, could be. Again, that's why you want to have multiple criteria.
Right. All right. Couple of minutes left here. Having problems concentrating, remembering, and making decisions. That happens to me all the time.
Maybe you are bipolar.
Maybe I am. I don't know.
No. These are all discrete, and we have to understand that they have to all be happening at the same time for a pervasive length of time.
You know why I have problems concentrating sometimes or remembering? It's because I'm multitasking too much.
Yeah.
And that can do it to you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Being restless or irritable
goes the same way with the mania. Just it can be you can be depressed and restless and irritable. You can be manic and restless and irritable.
Changing, eating, sleeping, or other habits.
Yep.
Thinking of death or suicide. We talked about that. Death or suicide. So how does it reach? I don't know. Armin Bacon has been in here many times talking about her son committed suicide.
Yep.
We hear about it all the time. What has to happen in the brain, in your opinion, for a person to reach that low of suicide?
Well, there comes a time which I can't fully appreciate, and perhaps you can't either because we haven't felt that, where it's just so difficult to go forward. I just want this to stop. It's probably like being in physical pain, and sometimes you just hurt so much, you almost want to say, just cut the damn thing off. I don't, I can't do it anymore.
Hit me in the head with a hammer.
Yeah, it's just, I'm dying here, or headache, anything like that. And imagine having that kind of psychic pain 24/7, day after day after day. You just, after a while, I just got to make it stop.
Had it. Yeah, I've had it.
Can't do it.
Hey, I like to do one of these days when I have you back? I don't know. It's been 20-something years. I'd like to have you psychoanalyze O.J. Simpson. Oh, I'm serious.
That would be fun.
Would you like to do that?
That's a good one. That's a good one.
That would be a good topic.
Do we have a minute, or we
got like 10 seconds. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I just had a list of people who have bipolar, famous people. I thought it'd be fun.
Does he have time? No time?
No time.
No time. Sorry.
There is a list of famous people who have it. You'd love it.
Give me one. Quick. One.
Okay.
10 seconds. One. Biggie. Donald Trump.
Oh, not bipolar.
5 seconds.
Narcissist. But in this case, Heinz Christian Andersen, Charles Dickens, Ernest Hemingway, Eugene O'Neill, Rachmaninoff, Tchaikovsky, Irving Berlin, Cole Porter. These are all people who have bipolar.
Wow. Okay. I want to analyze O.J.
Okay.
The juice. All right.
We'll do it.
Peter Nazaretian, our guest today. We thank him for his time. Ask an Expert back on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody.